Mystery Recapped here. Today I'm going to explain a horror, thriller movie called Humane. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. In an alternate reality, Earth's natural resources have been ravaged by excessive population. There are simply too many humans for an ecosystem that is on the verge of collapse. Amid the ongoing disaster, the Secretary General of the UN holds an emergency summit in Athens. The leaders from various nations around the world come up with a radical solution to save the planet, reducing the population by artificial methods. The Secretary General then announces that the international borders will be closed immediately, and each nation will have to reduce its population by 20% within a year. In the US, a task force named the Department of Citizen Strategy, or DOCS, is established to carry out the population reduction. They have come up with a euthanasia program in which people volunteer to end their lives peacefully. The deceased's family will receive a sum of $250,000 for their sacrifice. Meanwhile, in a posh villa, retired news anchor Charles York watches his son Jared give an interview on TV. He is an anthropologist and is publicly vocal about his support for the government's euthanasia program. But Charles doesn't like the show for some reason, so he shuts the TV off and heads downstairs. In the kitchen, his wife Dawn is preparing for a lavish meal. Charles arrives there and begins emptying all the alcohol from his cellar into the sink. It is revealed that they are going to host a family dinner for their 4 children. A few hours later, Jared arrives at the villa and heads straight to the kitchen. He picks up a glass and goes to the cellar, only to find it completely empty. Jared guesses that his father must have hidden the alcohol. Since Noah, his adopted brother, is also coming for dinner, it is obvious that Noah has addiction problems, and Jared isn't really fond of him. Slowly, other guests also start trickling in for the family dinner. Middle child Rachel arrives along with her teenage daughter Mia. Charles then greets everyone warmly, but is surprised to see Mia there. It is revealed that he had exclusively told his children that the dinner was an adults-only event, but when Rachel threatens to leave, he allows the teenager to stay over. Elsewhere, Noah arrives near the villa, but can't gather the courage to go in. He calls his girlfriend Grace, who tries to cheer him up. When he still doesn't calm down, she understands the situation and asks him to return home if he's uncomfortable. Noah decides to head back, but is stopped by his half-sister Ashley. She tells him to hop in her car. "Get in, bitch, we're going to get euthanized by Dad probably," threatening to cancel the whole event if he doesn't turn up. It is obvious that these two share a close relationship. Later that night, the whole family sits at the dining table, and Dawn serves them exquisite dishes. Charles then makes a toast, thanking everyone for accepting his invitation. He also apologizes to them for missing so much family time because he was so single-mindedly invested in his career. Suddenly, Rachel cuts his speech short and demands to know why they were invited. In response, Charles grabs his wife's hand and reveals that they have decided to enlist in the euthanasia program. This enrages Rachel, and she starts spewing profanities for not getting a heads up so that she could have left Mia, but Charles points out that he did mention the dinner was adults only and politely asks Mia to leave the table. After the teenager heads upstairs, Charles opens up about his decision. The government has made it mandatory for at least one person from every family to be enlisted. Charles states that he would not be able to bear the pain if one of his children were selected at random. That is why he and Dawn have volunteered to safeguard the family of future enlistment. However, Jared, who is working closely with the government, states these rules are not for powerful and rich families like theirs, but Charles refuses to drop the idea as he doesn't want to take a chance. Just when the conversation starts to get heated, Dawn orders everyone to go take a breather and return back for dessert. Later, in the living room, Noah tries to change his father's mind by telling him that the DOCS had long ago met the 20% population reduction pledge, but they are now continuing the enlistment to eliminate certain classes of people. Charles seems to agree, but Jared, who is also in the living room, is incensed by those rumors. He begins to defend the government's actions and also vengefully pokes fun at Noah's addiction problem. Ashley, who is listening from nearby, comes to her half-brother's defense. However, in the midst of her rant, she accidentally mentions Noah's girlfriend. To everyone's surprise, Charles is extremely happy by the news and even asks to see the girlfriend's photo.
"This is great! I thought you were asexual, son."
Following this, Charles leaves to help his wife, but comes back moments later with a note. It turns out Dawn has run away from the villa because she is having second thoughts thoughts about her decision to enlist. Just then, they hear the bell ringing and Mia attends the front door. Officials from docks who were scheduled to come that night have arrived at the York Villa. The head officer, Bob, says they had a slight change in scheduling, which is why they are here early. Nonetheless, Charles invites him inside and tells him that Dawn has left. He also requests to postpone the procedure, asking if they can come back once Dawn gets in contact. Bob, who seems like a friendly person, agrees to do so, but wants to talk to Charles in private. Once they are alone, the old man is given some cancellation papers to sign. He begins to read the documents and notices something that infuriates him. However, Bob says that if Charles refuses both options, his reputation, property, and money might go down the drain. The scene then shifts to a few moments later, where a visibly emotional Charles tells his children that he has decided to go ahead with the procedure, but he doesn't reveal what was on the cancellation papers. Next, Charles lays in bed while all his children stand around in despair. Bob then puts him to sleep, and soon he is euthanized. As the dock's staff take the body away, things start to get weird. Bob tells the York siblings that he needs a second cadaver, since he was called here to collect 2 bodies. An angry Noah threatens him and asks him to leave, but several docks personnel come in with guns. Bob then explains that they have 2 hours to decide who will take Dawn's place. When Jared tries to call his contact in the government, he realizes that Bob and his men have scrambled the house. No call, text, or internet connection can go through the villa. Docks also seems to have a laundry list of everyone's browser history, emails, DMs, and their internet footprint. Bob breaks down this information to the siblings, saying he knows everything about their private lives.
Noah torrents 4K movies and Jared is into hentai. I'll let you guess which is worse.
He also points out that Mia is exempt from the enlistment as she is a minor. He then takes the teenager to his caravan, leaving the adults to decide who should volunteer to end their lives. Just in case they can't, he will return and decide their fate. After a while, the siblings gather in the living room, and Jared immediately suggests Noah should sacrifice himself. He alleges that Noah was given all the opportunities despite being adopted, but he blew everything by drinking and killing a woman in an accident. A visibly emotional Noah retaliates that he came here to apologize and doesn't want to die just yet. He then urges everyone to work together as per their father's wishes. Soon afterwards, they signal for Bob, who immediately comes to the villa. They ask how he will decide. If the family cannot come to a conclusion, the docks officer smirks and tells them that he will decide by drawing straws.
Not drawing dicks like you're into, Jared. Drawing straws.
Just then, Rachel asks what would happen if they just delivered a dead body to him instead of doing the draw. Bob says that in such cases, the paperwork would be hard to manage, but also points out that any dead body is better than no dead body. After the officer leaves, Rachel's vile, twisted side comes out. She admits to doing some horrible things in life, but she is not ready to throw her life away. Rachel then grabs a nearby knife and attacks Noah. The latter is caught off guard, but defends himself from being slashed. Despite everyone being surprised by her sudden actions, Rachel tries to convince her siblings to join her. She states that killing Noah will get them more of their father's money. Rachel specifically tells Ashley that she can use the cash to fulfill her dreams of being an actress. Noah believes that she won't turn on him as they share a close bond, but to his utter surprise, Ashley decides to support the other 2 siblings. Following this, Jared picks up a pointy object and Rachel throws pepper spray towards Ashley. They then surround a visibly distressed Noah, but he beats them and tries to run inside a nearby room to hide. Just as he is about to close the room's door, Rachel throws a knife at him. Back in the docks camper van, Bob gets the news that Dawn has surrendered herself. Surprisingly, he tells his men to take her to the headquarters instead and not to reveal this information to the family. Inside the villa, Noah locks himself in his father's room and we see that he was stabbed in the back by the knife. With time running out, he texts Grace and throws his phone far away from the villa so it picks up the signal. He then breaks a bench and grabs a piece of wood as a weapon. Next, he goes to the kitchen and prepares makeshift armor by wearing an apron and putting a steel plate in it. He soon finds Ashley hiding behind the kitchen's door all alone. She apologizes immediately, saying that she got carried away by Rachel's words. However, Noah replies that he came out to talk and not to exact revenge. He still believes that they should work together, like their father wanted. Unfortunately, just as Noah exits the kitchen, Rachel and Jared ambush him, nailing his hand to the wall. He desperately begs Ashley for help, but she runs away, betraying his trust once more. Nonetheless, Noah somehow frees himself, grabs the piece of wood, and smacks Jared. He then stabs Rachel in the neck with a fork that was lying on the kitchen floor, but just as he's about to finish them off, Ashley springs a surprise attack on him. This allows the others to subdue Noah and tie him up. The scene then shifts to a few moments later, where Noah is tied up and surrounded by his half-siblings. They are gearing up to stab him when Grace suddenly arrives and starts calling for Noah. This alerts the siblings and they rush outside, only to see that Grace is recording the dock's personnel, who are armed with assault rifles. Bob soon comes out of the camper van to talk to her, but things only get more tense. The siblings urge Grace to run away and get help, and she instantly obliges. However, she doesn't get too far, as one of the dock's guards eventually guns her down. Bob then tells the family to go in and bring him a body within 15 minutes. However, when the siblings return inside, Noah is nowhere to be seen. The ropes they tied him with are also thrown nearby, which means that he is now free. Unbeknownst to them, Noah had also heard Grace's voice and is aware that she is now dead. Boiling with anger and vengeance, he soon cuts the house's power supply. This freaks out the other siblings, so they pick up some utensils as weapons. Soon enough, Noah ambushes them and stabs Ashley multiple times in the abdomen. He then attacks the rest, brutally knocking them down one by one. By the time he is done, all three are flat on the floor, bruised and exhausted. After the vicious fighting, all the siblings begin to cool down and reflect on their actions. Rachel, who has been nothing but selfish up until now, suddenly says that she will volunteer for euthanization, but Jared and Ashley object and say they also volunteer for the procedure, saying that they have been terrible siblings. Upon hearing this, Noah softens up and suggests that they don't have to volunteer. He proposes that they should all band together and kill Bob. The others immediately agree, but they first tend to Ashley's wounds. When the time runs out, Bob goes inside with his deputy Tom and sees the unconscious body of Ashley lying on the floor. The other siblings then arrive and Bob checks them for weapons, but this is when Ashley springs back and stabs Tom in his calves. The others take advantage of this distraction to pull out the knives they had hidden in a nearby flower vase. In the blink of an eye, Bob and Tom are held hostage, and they even force the rest of the dock's security guards to give up their weapons. Unfortunately, Ashley, who had been stabbed multiple times before, passes out. Bob tries to wriggle out, but Jared picks up a gun from the floor and knocks his lights out. When Bob regains consciousness, he finds himself strapped to a chair while the Yorks are getting ready to euthanize him. He warns them that if they kill a dock's officer, the state will get custody of their children, but the siblings ignore him and ready the equipment for the procedure. This is when Bob tries to negotiate with them and reveals that Don is at the dock's headquarters. If they set him free, he will make up a story that will allow all of them to live out their lives in peace alongside Don. The scene then shifts to a few days later, as Noah is at a concert playing his piano. His family, including Don, sits in the audience, proudly looking at him. It is revealed that they took Bob's deal and let him go. In return, the dock's officer made up a fake story declaring Grace and Ashley as voluntary enlisters. I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting one more twist. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a